All right, now a special discussion on the program. There were strong words today from the Supreme Court on tiger conservation as the Supreme Court hit out at the politician-officer nexus in Uttarakhand's Corbett Tiger Reserve. The top court criticized former Uttarakhand Forest Minister Harak Singh Rawat and ex-divisional forest officer, that's DFO, Kishan Chand, for allowing illegal construction and felling of trees in Corbett in an order that quoted the Mahabharata on the significance of tigers to the forest and forest to the tigers. Now, the case is regarding permissions for a planned Pakhro Tiger Safari project in Corbett, which was challenged after 6,000 trees were felled for the construction of permanent structures. The court also today held that zoos cannot be permitted in protected areas such as national parks and wildlife sanctuaries. Additionally, the court has signaled its intent to carefully scrutinize the concept of safaris within the Tiger Reserve. Well, to talk more about all these issues involved as well as Corbett Tiger Reserve, one of the country's foremost tiger reserves, we're now joined by Kedar Gore, Director, the Corbett Foundation and wildlife conservationist, Latika Nath, wildlife conservationist and tiger expert, also Rahul Bhatnagar, former IFS officer and now a member of the National Tiger Conservation Authority. Rahul Bhatnagar, I'd like to start with you, sir. The Supreme Court had very strong words on this entire issue. It had been a massive controversy at the time when it was reported that 6,000 trees were cut in Corbett Reserve, a part of it. Your comments on what the Supreme Court has now said and its directions?
Good evening, Gargiji. Very good evening, and it is a pleasure to be with you all here. And I recently read the order of the Supreme Court, and what I came to know about it, that in spite of the sanction of few 300 odd trees, the park authorities have cut more than 6,000 trees, which is really something very, very bad. And the best part is the Supreme Court has come up with a very good decision to take action against those who are found guilty. And this order of Supreme Court will definitely will go a long way in conservation of forest and wildlife, and especially tiger reserves.
That's right. You talk about how they were clear to cut a few hundred trees, and this is what the Supreme Court is saying, that they have thrown public trust doctrine in the dustbin because of this action and hitting out at this nexus, they've called it, between the former environment minister there and the DFO of this area.
Yes, I was not aware much about it, but I read read that order, Supreme Court order, very in a haste, and it is very true that the authorities have gone much beyond the sanction orders, and then they have to be they have to be penalized. There is no other way out, and they have given the time limit also, Supreme Court.
Right, the CBI is investigating that matter. Kedar Gore, your comments on this entire issue. It's been a few years since this was highlighted, and now the Supreme Court coming out with this very strong statement.
Yeah, thank you, Gargi, for having me on this show. The Honorable Supreme Court has come up with an excellent order, and it is very strongly worded. And I'm really glad to read this order, actually. We all have been reading about this blatant violation of the Wildlife Protection Act and Forest Conservation Act in the world-renowned Corbett Tiger Reserve since past few years. And I'm really glad that the Honorable Court has nailed the culprits, and it has also given orders to form a committee that will not only formulate guidelines, but also assess the kind of ecological damage being done, how much it will cost to restore it, and the cost has to be recovered from the errant officials. I think that's the best part. What it also exposes is the very dirty nexus between politicians and some of the corrupt officials. I think this will give a very, very strong statement. It will make a very strong statement among all such officials across India, and people will be careful in future not to really blatantly violate get into such violations. And personally, I think conceptually having tiger safaris in buffer zones should be avoided. we can probably have the safaris in some other areas which are not really corridors, not affecting free movement of animals, and where restoration of forests is required, so that both can go hand in hand, and at the same time we can also earn some revenue from the people who come to such
All right, I'd
safaris.
like
I
to
don't.
speak to you,
Yeah.
more on that, because
Sure.
there's one view that says this takes the pressure off the park, and I also know there are a lot of tigers that have been, captured and are being kept currently in, small enclosures, problem tigers, etc. They have been removed and kept in enclosures. So, we can talk more about that. But Latika Nath, your comments, and given the Supreme Court has come out so strongly, this is an issue we're going to see, officers across the country being more careful, and not what we saw in Corbett, where you've been sanctioned this, park or this safari area, and you've gone and cut 6,000 trees.
Yeah, thank you, Gargi, for inviting me to the show. I read the judgment with a great deal of interest, and I have to say, we're blessed to have a Supreme Court that has been the guardian of the environment and forests of India. I think we owe them a great debt and a great deal of thanks for the role that they are playing. Having said that, it's absolutely shocking to see what has happened. I mean, we don't even know why a tiger safari like this was allowed in Pakra when there's already something so close in Dela. We also know that the Honorable Court has said very clearly that these should be animals that have been rescued from the local population. And to date, we have no idea on what is happening, how many of these orphaned or injured animals are actually there that need these two safari parks to be created so close to each other. So how was this allowed? It's absolutely shocking that viable tiger habitat, which is so precious in the country, has been damaged and reduced because of the felling of over 6,000 trees when permissions were only given for 163 trees. So I think we're really in debt of the Honorable Court. What I'm actually a little stunned at is to see why the illegal buildings and all of this work that was done is being allowed to continue. This is a question that we want to talk about now, and we're hoping that the Honorable Court and the investigations that are going to come will give us more clarity on just what is going to happen to mitigate the damage that has been done. So I think again, there's been this judgment is absolutely landmark in the way it beautifully frames and summarizes what is happening in the field of wildlife conservation in India. It very clearly talks about the guidelines for tiger safaris from 2012, 2016, rejects the guidelines from 2019 because these are zoo population animals that are going to be introduced, and we don't want to expose our wild animals to animals from other zoos.
That's right.
Also have to remember that by introducing a closed safari park like this within something like a tiger reserve, that you're increasing the chances of the spread of diseases, increasing the fact that this massive concentration of animals can actually lead to further problems and lead to things spreading into the wild populations. So there's many questions.
Okay.
And these are all things that I think we're going to wait to see what the investigation says and what the Honorable Court finally decides.
Right, Mr. Rahul Bhatnagar, so the NTCA has a lot to, think about and come back on, given what the Supreme Court has said, especially on the issue of safaris and having these, this zoo, not zoo exactly, but an enclosed safari area adjoining the Tiger Reserve.
Actually, Gagi, this what I feel, basically these tiger safaris were meant for keeping those rescued, injured animals in the natural habitat, and they enjoy the natural areas, and when they are fine enough, they can be released back to the wild. This was a basic concept, and this should be done, because I remember long back when there was a animal T24. He was transferred to a biological park, then where he has to stay in a small 1 hectare enclosure. So that was something. Look into that. This area, Tiger Safari area, for the rescued is good thing. And now let's see. The committee has been formed by Supreme Court,
Yes.
and they will definitely view all these aspects about the safari part of it, whether it has to be continued or how it has to be continued. And we will look forward. NTCA will play an important role in all this formation of
Right,
committees.
absolutely.
And
Right, Kedar Gore, your comments on this, and we do know there are many rescued animals as we've been talking, and that they need to be, that a park could be created for those animals to have more space in. So your comments on that, and also on the issue of tourism, because the Supreme Court seemed to, comment about the tourism, etc., and how the attention needs to be on animals, but tourism can also be a good conservation tool.
Yes, of course, Gargi. Tourism definitely is a great conservation tool, and it has been proved beyond doubt in all the tiger reserves and many other protected areas throughout the country. And if we have well-managed, disciplined tourism, it will definitely be a win-win situation for the wild animals as well as the local communities, who will then depend on the wild animals and would definitely be towards the conservation side and not against the conservation of wild animals. Now, conceptually, as as I said earlier, these kind of tiger safaris are not bad. However, they should not be, in my opinion, they should not be in the buffer zones of tiger reserves, because though they may be buffer zones, they still are connected areas to core zones and important for tiger dispersal, and even can act as corridors for tiger dispersing in other areas of the forest. So, if we want to really keep injured or animals involved in negative interaction with human beings or orphaned tigers into such semi-captive areas, natural areas, then I think we should consider areas which are already degraded, invest some time and money in restoring these areas, and then transfer these animals to
All
these.
right,
And
rather
then,
than occupying a
some
key
kind of
buffer
tourism.
area that could serve as a corridor for dispersing animals. Thank you so much all. I'm completely out of time, but thank you so much, Kedar Gore, Latika Nath and Rahul Bhatnagar for joining us.